You are the blind one.
Yes.
Your parents Jewish?
No.
Grandparents?
No. Why have I been arrested?
During the interrogation, a bright white light flashes out into the audience. Two actors whirl around each other. Jacques sits reading Braille on the scaffold set. An actor talks urgently, gesturing out to the audience. The Major hits the open report before him. The Major loads and cocks a Luger gun and points it straight out in front of him. Jacques' teacher in a suit walks about meaningfully. Older and younger Jacques in the scaffold. Wide shot of the stage with Jacques on the scaffold and the Major on his podium. Two actors stand to either side of a light bulb hanging at waist height. Actors dance with each other doing the Lindy Hop. Shadowy figures in the scaffold.
We have to win the war!
An actor in long dark coat removes his trilby hat and looks at the light bulb. The two towers of the scaffold set are moved and reconfigured into a different shape on the stage. A concentration camp internee, dressed in a grey vest, talks angrily out from the scaffold. The 6 male actors in a line take a bow.
I think Maria and Excellent have done a very good job interpreting Jacques Brissol's work. I first found out about this when I was sent the press notice by the Excellent PR company, and I've written about it for the BBC News website. So I've spoken to Maria extensively, and the director and the actor that plays the older Jacques. So I think I understand quite well what they were trying to achieve with the play, and I have to say, having seen tonight's performance, I think they have achieved it.
I like it when companies involve their disabled actors in a very organic sense. So they're not trying to pretend they're not visually impaired or not disabled, but it's kind of embedded. I think that, again, that's a very powerful way to do something.
It's opened a new vision for me as to how blind people feel and what it means to them and how they orientate themselves in the world.
I also liked the way it was presented, just the lighting and the structure of the set.
Well, I really thought it was good. I've seen it twice.
It really enriched me enormously because I always wondered how blind people manage, how they feel, what the world means to them, and what objects mean to them, and that answers a lot of questions for me. And I think it's wonderfully written.
But it's a wonderful play. I love the script. I really do.
Good. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it raised lots of interesting questions. I loved the way it was staged, and lots to think about really.
The other thing that worked very well for me was the fact that it was a very accessible performance. As a visually impaired theatre goer, I'm used to having to wear a headset when I go perhaps to the National, for example, and having to listen to somebody whispering into my right or left ear telling me what the characters are doing on stage. And in fact, it didn't need audio description in that way. It was very subtly built into the piece, so I don't think that I missed anything, even though I wasn't sitting in the front row. And I think the actors all performed it incredibly well.
And to tell you the truth, I couldn't actually tell he was blind at the start, and it was only when one of my colleagues said, oh no, because I actually asked who he was, and he actually pointed the way to me. So
I particularly enjoyed the way that at the end it kind of moved in a crescendo towards the idea of gradually learning how to see through your fingers and through your ears when you were blind. It was a bit like the advance of the Allied army gradually sort of freeing the continent from the Nazis. That was a particularly clever way, I thought, of bringing the two aspects together. Speaking obviously as non-visually impaired, found it extremely accessible, and I could kind of see the way that it would be accessible to visually impaired people as well. I think in the way that, for example, some of the explanations of what was going on with the stage movements sort of became part of the play. I thought that was very clever.
I liked the way that they interpreted his work. I liked the way they explored notions of change in your life. In other words, Louis Severn's fever and his subsequent blindness, and how that meant that he would measure and, walk into the world in a different way. And I think set against the backdrop of the drama of the occupation of Paris and an interrogation by a Gestapo officer, it gave it great poignancy.
And his description of the sensation of being blind, I thought that really is a super play.
It had been such a traumatic experience, getting this production to the point of completion on every level. When I say completion, I mean there are various stages of completion involved in any production. But to get to the actual end of it, when we completed the tour, had our run at the Riverside in London, and got through it without actually anybody being killed, it felt like a real amazing triumph to get to that point. And it'd been a really immense emotional roller coaster. I just thought, I cannot allow this production just to finish and for everyone just to go off in their separate ways. I have to do something to mark the end of this, no matter how difficult it's been for all of us. And there were members of the cast that weren't talking to each other, and members of the production team that weren't talking to each other, and I thought, no, this is no good. I started out this whole project with it was meant to be sort of from my heart, and it was meant to have the best intentions. You know what they say about the road to hell, and that's where it felt like we had been. So I thought, what can I do? And I remember in that last week while we were at the Riverside, I thought, I want to give a memento to everybody. And what seemed appropriate? Well, it's about war and victory and commemoration. So I had this idea about getting some sort of medals made up with an inscription on the back for each member of the team. And I got all these together, and I sent off, and the company said they were able to do them within the week, which was great, and they all arrived. And the last performance, sent word round that I wanted everybody to meet in the theatre before we struck the set for the last time. And people were reluctant, they just wanted to grab their coats and rush off. But everyone came into the theatre, and I just stood there and said, it's been, it has been quite a phenomenal journey for all of us. It's been marked by a lot of ups and downs, and very difficult moments for a lot of us, but we've got here, we've done it. It has been unique in its execution and in its ambition, and I'm proud of everybody and everything that they've given and to the project. And so I gave everybody a medal, and it said on the back of them for a valiant act in resistance for the actors, and various similar sorts of things for the other production team. And it was, I could feel it energetically, it was a moment where everything between everybody sort of melted, and all of the hostility, just for that moment, just felt like it just kind of shifted away, for a moment. And there was a sense of coming together, and that was worthwhile. So I was really glad that I did it. And I took a deep breath, and I thought to myself, why not take it to France?
Maria smiles. The Eiffel Tower. Fades to a black and white photograph of Jacques Lusson as a young man, sitting in a library. Director Maria Oshodi. Editor Andy Paul. Camera Alan Boyer and Andy Paul. Audio describer Sandy Easton. DVD author Andy Paul. Produced by Extant. Supported by Arts Council England and the Media Trust. Extant logo, Arts Council England logo.